welcome to our October 12th meeting. Have we got everybody in attendance that we think is coming, or should I wait for a little bit more?
No, this should be everybody.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get Starla rolling with the roll call, and let's get moving.
Frank Garcia.
Here.
Carmelita Chief. Supervisor Judy Begay. Lisa Gainey.
Here.
Corey Hartman. Catherine Moore. Here. And Beth Straight.
Here.
Okay. All right, and that is a quorum. Do we have any members of the public? I don't think we do. Okay. All right. If we could just take a minute to glance over the minutes, and then I'll take a motion to accept the September 2023 minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes for last month.
I'll second.
If I get a second.
I'll second.
Okay. So Lisa did our second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we have accepted the minutes. And now going on to our reports. We'll go ahead and start with you, Linda, the director's report.
Okay, I do have a few things that I wanted to point out from my report. One is that we had a lovely ribbon cutting ceremony now that we've completed the front entry. And so that was a real nice celebration. We had somewhere between 60 and 70 people. So pretty nice turnout, beautiful day for it. And one thing that I thought was kind of nice was the mayor gave a very nice welcome and opening comments. And she was talking about the quality of this library and how that reflected our town's values. And that was really similar to a quote that I had brought for my part of the presentation. And I just want to share that with this group. And that quote is, "A city's dedication to the education of its citizenry may be measured by the quality of its library." It's a quote I kind of love. And I have never been able to find out who said it, and I don't remember where I got it. But it's a very nice quote.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that's a challenge to some librarians in the room here to find who said that, but.
You can own it since you don't know.
Yeah, I'll just attribute it to myself, huh? The other thing I wanted to point out is that we're really excited that our PALS Mobile librarian, Jessica Archer, is going to receive the Outreach Services Award at the Arizona State Library Association Conference. So I think you may remember, some of you may remember her from when she presented to this group the last time, and she's just really full of enthusiasm about that job. She always goes the extra mile and really places importance on serving some of the underserved communities. And so that's what this award is all about, and we're super excited she's getting it. So that was another item. Also just wanted to give an update on the Deputy Library Director to oversee county surveys recruitment. We did go through a process. We had 4 candidates that we felt were qualified, and we ended up selecting a woman that we were all pretty excited about, and we scheduled one more interview to talk with her, and she pulled out of the process. So we're going back to the drawing board on that one because there were just not any others that rose to the top the way she did. So we're gonna be running through that again. And Richard and Mark sat on that panel with me, so I really appreciated their help. And hopefully we'll find someone this round. I did advertise this time with the American Library Association job list, and that's a little extra expense, but it does have a pretty broad reach. So hopefully we'll be finding a quality candidate. But in the meantime, we have Lauren Clementino, who was the reference supervisor in an acting capacity to do that position, and she's doing very good work. So for the interim time, it looks like someone we need to admit, Corey. So anyway, in the meantime, Lauren is doing a real nice job with that, and those branches are getting, I think, great service from her. So, and then the other thing on staff updates, Pam Packard is leaving the library on November 3rd, and she's been here for 7 years. So that's kind of significant. She's moving down to the Phoenix area to be with her mother down there, and I think provide some care for her. But I think we'll really miss Pam after 7 years.
Pam will definitely be missed. She's a rock for us, so it's a big hole to fill.
And then just a few things from the branch libraries. You can of course read the whole report, but a few things that I thought were interesting and kind of fun. I never knew that there was an online Toastmaster club, and so I think that's kind of fun that Forest Lakes knew about that or found out about that, and it seems to be a need in their community, so they're going to be offering that. And then Tuba City had the health fair, and there are some photos of that event. So I think they had a good sized turnout for that event. And Lauren Clementino, who of course is overseeing the county libraries right now, attended that as well. So I thought that was nice that she was able to make it up there. And then the bookmobile librarian position has been posted, and we have that open right now. So we're on the road to getting the bookmobile on the road again. So those are the main things that I wanted to point out. And the only other thing I would like to make mention of is, if you had a chance to look at the library statistics, the attendance and number of programs is quite impressive. So really getting a lot of programs going and getting a lot of people to attend. So I think that's really a neat thing to see that. Does anybody have any questions for me on any of those items?
Linda, do you see, well, first of all, I have to apologize because I realized while she was talking that you can't see me and I can't seem to get my camera to work, which is probably better for all of you, but just so you know that I couldn't get it to work. And then, Linda, do you foresee any challenges in trying to hire that bookmobile librarian position? I mean, everybody seems to be experiencing issues with hiring.
Well, the challenge for this particular position is that it does require an MLIS, so you have to be a trained librarian, and it does require that the person get a CDL license to drive the vehicle. Okay. So that's a pretty unique combination of needs. Jessica, the PALS Mobile librarian, took our job ad to the ABOS conference that she is attending, and that is American Bookmobile Outreach Services, I think is what that stands for. And so she was going to post it there because that would be a really good audience, people who are involved in outreach services, to find the right person. If we don't find someone, we could always hire the person with the master's degree, with the caveat that they need to get the CDL within a certain period of time. We could do that. Or we could explore hiring a CDL driver and then rotating staff to go out with the bookmobile. So for instance, if we're going up to the city and we know we want to do a children's story time, maybe we take along a children's librarian or something like that.
So you don't have to fill that position to use the bookmobile?
Well, we want to fill it too.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, but in the meantime, you could do these workarounds.
Yeah, we definitely could do that. So we do have some flexibility. There are some different approaches we could take to get that service up and running again.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I agree with you that the number of programs and the quality of the programs that the library is doing is just great. I really enjoy the weekly emails that we get, the what's happening at your library emails. Those are really cool, and get things out to the community, the game nights, all of those things. I think it's great, the things that are going on.
I haven't seen as much presence on social media of the library lately. Am I just missing it, or is somebody not posting a lot of things?
I see a lot on Instagram every day.
Okay, I look on Facebook and I haven't seen much. I was just curious.
Richard, do you want to talk about the marketing team and what
Sure.
we're doing with that right now?
So in the past, we had had somebody who, specifically as a part of their job duties, their job responsibilities was managing our marketing. However, that was becoming so significant a part of their job. They were spending so much time doing that part of the job that we decided that it wasn't really fair among their other duties. So we split those responsibilities up among various department members. We created a marketing team among all the different departments. So reference, our admin team, youth services, our East Flagstaff Community Library, and they come together and then they kind of divvy up some of the marketing responsibilities. So all the things should still be posted, and we do have somebody who specifically, has the duties of posting everything onto all the social media platforms, but not necessarily creating all the things that one singular person had done in the past. In the future, the intention is to hire a full-time marketing specialist who that is their job. They don't work the public service desk. They don't run programming. They don't answer reference questions or do story time. They handle marketing. So that's the goal moving forward. Once we have our IGA kind of renewed with Coconino County, I think that's still a core thing that we want to move forward to. But in the interim, we're moving in that delegating responsibilities direction just because of workflow issues.
Okay. One of the reasons I asked is because I just went out on Facebook and looked at the library's page, and they only posted 2 times in September. Nothing this month. And the last one before that was in July or something.
Yeah, that's abnormal because Alex Pycon has been handling those responsibilities, and I know that she's been doing them. So I need to circle back with her supervisor.
Maybe ask. There's been very, I just pulled up.
She's outside of my reporting structure now, so I'll have to figure that out.
Great.
Did we lose Frank?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you not hear that?
Yeah, we didn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Boy, I must be having all kinds of technical difficulties. Sorry about that. So we're going on to the county IT and collection management services, and that's Mark and Amelia. So if you guys want to proceed, that'd be great.
Amelia, can you go first?
Sure, no problem.
Thanks.
I'm going to share my screen with y'all. In theory. Yes. This one. Can you see that? Okay, great. So my name is Amelia Mason. I am the Collection Management Services Supervisor. And back here in this portion of the library, we handle the purchasing, cataloging, processing for the Flagstaff and many of our county libraries, especially our branches. So what does that mean? That means so like I said, purchasing, cataloging, and processing. We handle material mending, periodicals management, our newspapers and magazines, management of our archive, digitization. We also receive the deliveries for the library and assist other departments here at the library as needed. So on the procurement side, we have 9 basic primary vendors that we use and several smaller occasional vendors that are kind of more one-off or two-off purchases. These are fiscal year numbers. So ending June 30th of 2023, we ordered just over 1,000 ebooks, 500 e-audiobooks, over 11,000 physical items. And of those 11,000, 1,000 of them were specifically driven by patron requests for specific items. And this number is a little more nebulous. We did purchase 27,000 e-materials through our Hoopla vendor, but the way that works is it's a every item circled counts as a purchase because we pay per circ. So we might pay $1.50 as someone checks out an ebook, or $2.64 if they check out an audiobook, depending. So these are more checkouts than purchases. It's a little wonky there. But some basic highlights: we spent just under $320,000 across all of the libraries for all of our material types, 42,000 of which was grant funded. Some of the special projects that we did this year included buying some more Braille books for the Flagstaff Library collection, and that was accomplished with money from the Library Foundation. We reviewed our Native American titles for accurate catalog placement. So this was a project that we undertook when we realized that we had some titles in our 900s, which is the history section of our collection, that didn't actually belong there, that they were put there as a kind of catch-all because they so we had a poetry book that was written by a Native American author, and it was put in history because it was by a Native American author. And obviously that's not where it should belong. It should be with the poetry, with all the rest of our poetry. So we did a review of that collection in our adult collection. We're still going through a review as far as our youth services and our Eastside materials collection, but that was one of the things that we worked on this last fiscal. We also had a telehealth grant materials that Linda talked about for the Tuba City Library, and that was kind of a last year and this year project. On cataloging, so we have a total of 8 team members who handle all the materials for our 9 libraries throughout the county. And on the cataloging side, that means adding machine readable cataloging or MARC records to the online catalog. This can mean downloading and editing an existing record or creating a record from scratch if one doesn't already exist. This helps ensure that our catalog is searchable, descriptive, and accurate so that patrons can actually find what they're looking for. And then, of course, we also go through and review and edit records so that we can be sure that everything is in the proper place so that people can actually find them and use them. On the processing and mending side, processing is adding the barcode, the spine label, other information so the item can be shelved properly and then found. It's also adding the RFID tags for our inventory control and adding crystal jackets to our books to increase their overall lifespan. Last year, our mending specialist, which is pretty much one person, others will help out if there's a backlog, but she did 993 repairs last year to books, CDs, DVDs, cases, all of those kinds of things to just overall extend the life of our materials. Our periodicals, this is just a rough title count by each library for whom we are currently buying magazines. We will be adding, as we get that bookmobile driver back up and going, we're going to be purchasing titles for them again. We had stopped them during the time that we didn't have anyone doing that route. But all of these subscriptions are ordered and processed by staff. Most of them come through another vendor who then goes out to the magazine and newspaper companies, and they get us a better price than we could without spending an exorbitant amount of staff time to contact 112 different periodical vendors. These are based on our budget and community needs. And then in addition, so these are just the physical titles. We also have online magazines available through Hoopla, Overdrive, and other online databases as well. So then the final part is the archives and the digitization. The archives, we set aside select material to send to a bindery and house in the archives for reference, including Arizona Daily Sun, Plateau Magazine, and other local titles. This photo here is a selection of our Daily Sun bound copies. So we just had a staff member go through, and she spent quite a lot of man hours organizing this, sending off. We had a backlog of titles that hadn't, or of copies that hadn't been bound yet. She worked with the Daily Sun because we had about a year and a half, 2 years that we were missing the actual physical copy of the newspaper. And so she worked with them to fill in the gaps so that we could have these as an archive resource for the public. Then, I mentioned receiving the library's daily deliveries. Digitization, this is just an example of some of the things that we have digitized in the past. Usually the county, the deputy library director over county services has headed this largely. And these are a lot of the projects that have been done in the past. And I think that's all I have. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Amelia.
Yeah.
Has the Arizona Daily Sun been digitized at all as part of the Arizona Memory Project?
Not as part of that. We do have Newsbank access. So Newsbank is another one of our online periodical vendors, and we do have access to a lot of the Daily Sun through them.
Do you know how far back it goes?
I do not.
Okay. No, that's fine. I was just curious. I didn't know if that had been done or not yet.
Wasn't there a prior publication to the Daily Sun that is on the Memory Project? I believe it was in the 20s. Going off the back of my head.
I know the paper changed names at some point. It was called the Coconino Sun originally.
Yeah, and I believe that is on there, and I think it had another name too.
Mm.
Those are on the Memory Project.
Okay, well, thank you.
I guess that means it's my turn to talk now. Hi, everybody.
Yes.
My name is Mark Caesar. I'm the library IT manager. And I've been here at the library for 16 years. And the library IT department that is stationed here in Flagstaff, there's 4 of us. We serve all the libraries in the county. So it doesn't matter whether you're here in Flagstaff or Grand Canyon or at Fredonia, we're the ones who support those computer networks. To give you an idea of where we fit in, I will share my screen. My presentation's not as polished as Amelia's is, but hopefully it'll help. Whoops, I think that was the wrong thing. Let me try that again. Share window or screen, this one, there we go. There you go, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so within the library infrastructure, and of course, this is all under the city of Flagstaff. Library director, which of course is no longer vacant, that's Linda, she's sitting there in the room with you. And under here,
Call me vacant.
sorry, I didn't get this updated before the meeting. And then the 2 deputy directors, Richard, and it was Will, and then the vacant position that we're trying to hire for now. And then me in the middle there. And then in the IT department, I have 3 staff. We have an IT analyst, and those are the things that the IT analyst runs. He runs Koha, that's our integrated library system, Office 365, which is Outlook and MS Office. The automated materials handler, some other, I call them enterprise level software packages because we use them everywhere. PCRes, LPT1. He is also our book scan station, our public scanner experts. And he also interfaces with Beth over at City Hall to keep the library's phones running. And then we have a network administrator here locally. He handles all the network things, firewalls, routers, switches, keeping the Wi-Fi network, server maintenance. His duties roll over into other things that are not necessarily network, but still need to be done, like server maintenance, computer image updates, things like that, hardware deployment. He keeps very busy. And then we have an application support specialist, which is Dave. And really, his biggest thing is our website. He is our web guru. So he helps with the website side of Koha that Mike runs. They work together on that. He also runs our proxy server and all of our third-party integrations, all the statewide databases, things like that, that we use to access from the library. He's also moving a lot of things into the cloud for us. So there's 3 people with long lists, and we all keep really, really busy. So now I'm going to go ahead and kill that for a minute. And I wanted to ask, play a little game here and see if you guys can answer some questions. First off, and I'm just going to, in a ballpark, somebody scream out a number. How many staff users do you think our integrated library system has? This is just a measure of how big our system is. And just take a guess.
How many staff are there?
Staff users of the library.
So not just this facility, but all throughout the district,
Just the staff.
just the staff.
I'm gonna say 200.
Okay, we have 2.
Somebody's really close, 202.
Whoa.
Wow.
What's her prize?
I know, something.
Compare that to the number of card holders that we have. How many card holders do you think we have?
Oh,
And we define a card holder as someone who has used their library card in the last 3 years.
Okay.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say 50,000.
40,000?
50,000.
146,000.
Wow.
Holy.
We have more users of that in the system, but they
Well,
haven't been active, so we don't count that.
6,000 people here, right?
Old Coconino County.
Oh, the whole county.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Flagstaff is around 75.
And it's possible that some people have more than one library card. For example, if you live at the Grand Canyon, you can get a library card from Grand Canyon Library, and you can get a card here at Flagstaff, because Flagstaff will give a card to anybody in the county, even if they have a local library card too. All right. In our system, the way cataloging works that Amelia was talking about, there are two levels of records. There's what's called a bibliographic record, and think of that as being a title level record. That tells you everything about that title book, author, publication, all that. And then there's what's called the item level record, which is the individual book. So you might have a book that has 3 different editions. Each edition will have its own title record, but just one bibliographic record for the title. How many title records do you think the library district has?
100,000?
Is it just the hard copies or the and
This is
digital?
just our physical collection, just the physical collection.
Well, I know she said 46,000 earlier.
I would say like 100,000. I don't know.
414,000.
Wow.
And then for copies of those, we actually have 455,000 records. The difference being multiple copies of the same book at the same time. So you add those two together, and then you add in our user records. We've got over 1 million records in our database. So it's a fairly good sized system, and we're a moderate sized library. We're not huge, but for us here in Coconino County, that's a lot. And that doesn't include the other kind of records that we have that make our system run, because we have records for acquisitions. We have other kind of records in the system that are just placeholders for the database. We don't count those, but still, just for our users and our items, we're looking at over 1 million records. So that's part of what keeps us busy, and that's our big integrated library system, which you probably know is called Koha. It's an open source system, which means we can get to the code and do programming if we want to. We haven't availed ourselves of that yet, but there's a whole community out there in the world, literally, where people are writing new code for our system every day within that community, within their guidelines. And that's one of the nice things about our system being open source, is that we're not paying someone for research and development. It's kind of crowdsourced, if you will, so that libraries and librarians all over the world are writing what they want the system to do, and then they share it with everyone else. It's a great cost saver. All right, I'll give you just a quick question about budget. How much do you think the Flagstaff libraries, Flagstaff specifically, pays for internet every year? We have a gigabit service, gigabit to everywhere.
48,000?
I'd say 200,000.
Oh. Well, the list price for what we have for that gigabit is 24,000 a year. However, we avail ourselves of the E-rate program, and we only pay 9,500.
Oh.
Nice.
So, and that leads me into my next one, which I want to talk a little bit about E-rate. I'm going to show you numbers from not last year, but the year before. I couldn't find the most recent one, but they didn't change, so this is still good. So, can you see that little spreadsheet there? The E-rate program is something that I do. It's a program run by the FCC. They collect taxes from your phone bill. Every time you pay your phone bill, there's something on there called Universal Service Fund or Universal Service Fees. This can go to different things, but one of those things is the Schools and Library program, and they help us pay for internet costs. They will also pay for hardware and wiring. Those are a little more difficult to apply for and very specific. We haven't had a big need for those yet, but we do use it for internet. And this gives you an idea of how much savings we get every year. You can see each of the libraries that we apply for, and then how much the full cost is, the E-rate portion, and then the library portion. So you can see that it's a 60%, 40% split. So you don't have to do the math in your head. So of the 51,000 that it cost us in the 21-22 year, The library's only paid $20,000 of that. That's what this program does for the library district. It's federal money. There's a lot going on with the applications. It's a 4-time-a-year process. It's a nightmare. But for this kind of cost savings, we can't pass it up. So that's one of the other things that we do. I got another little statistical thing here I wanted to share with you. And this is our Wi-Fi usage. This has gone up consistently over the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. There was a point when our public access computers were used more hours than our Wi-Fi was. That hasn't been the case for about 3 years. Wi-Fi usage is now more hours than our public access computers are. But what this shows, and you can ignore all the math, that's just my math here. But what this means is every 4.98, every 5 minutes, someone joins the Wi-Fi here at the downtown library. Every 9 minutes, somebody joins the Wi-Fi over at the east side. And these are averages. Of course, they vary throughout the day. There's busier times, there's slower times, but on average. And then if you go to the smaller libraries, like at Forest Lakes, oh, it's once an hour. That's okay. Grand Canyon once every 45 minutes. Tuba City is also very busy for being such a small library, but every 6 minutes, somebody is connecting to their Wi-Fi. So that's just an idea of one of the services that the IT department supports directly that keeps them busy. So on average, every 10 minutes, somewhere in the county, someone is joining Wi-Fi at one of the libraries. And that's only getting busier and busier as time goes by. So that's kind of the overview of the things that we do. I wanted to talk about a little bit about some of the things that we're working on right now, some of the projects that we have in the hopper. One, we are working toward this library and the library, the east side, both went with RFID technology 5 years ago, 6 years ago, actually. And we are this year going to try to expand that to the Page Public Library and convert their collection over to RFID technology. So we're working on that project. Because it's been 5 years, it's also time to renew the maintenance agreement on our RFID technology here in Flagstaff. So I'm working on that one too, but that's just a purchasing thing. We're working on installing new security cameras at both Flagstaff libraries and the Tuba City Public Library. We've already selected the vendor and the cameras we want to buy. This is state contract purchases, so we're getting a good deal on the price. And they're very powerful cameras that'll really help staff manage the public. That's probably a bad way of saying it, because the cameras don't stop anything from happening in the library. If someone wants to come in with nefarious intent, they're going to do it and the cameras aren't going to stop them. But when something like that does happen, having video recording of what happened really helps the library when we get to the court, or helps the police find the perpetrator. We do have cameras now. They're not very good. But on more than one occasion, we show the picture of the person to the police and they say, yeah, we know who that is. So having the cameras in the library really does help us out as far as keeping the public and staff safe in the buildings. So we're working on that. And we're also working on our regular normal computer replacement cycle. I want to say regular and normal, but the truth is we're behind. These computers should have been replaced 2 years ago. But other fires and COVID and projects, we're behind. So we're getting ready to do that. And that'll be a large purchase. We're looking at about 180 computers and about 50 laptops. So that's going to be a big project, and that'll take the rest of this fiscal year for us to actually get them purchased and get them deployed. And then everything that goes along with that. Part of everything that goes along with that is we're going to try out a new remote management system. One of the things about the IT department, and I don't want to complain or sound like I'm complaining, but we need another staff person, and we've been working towards that for a few years. Hasn't come to fruition. So one of the things that we're trying to do is invest in software packages or services that will take some of the workload off of our staff and move it to an outside vendor. one of these things that we're looking at this year is called Ninja One, and it allows us to manage all of our networks of computers remotely. But it does it through the internet versus the way we've been doing it in the old days, which is through VPN connections. And it seems like a much more powerful tool for us to use and should be a big time saver for staff. We still have to do the work, but it should be a great tool for us to do that work more efficiently. So we're trying that one out. Other things we're working on right now, and we have been working on for a while, I probably mentioned this during last year's IT report, is that we're trying to get an outside vendor for Wi-Fi printing, and we're trying to get the library up on credit card payments so that we can do those two things, which are kind of expected in the 21st century, but we just haven't been able to pull everything together to make it happen yet, for varying and sundry reasons that we don't need to go into here. But all those projects are on the table. And of course, the last big one is, as Richard has talked about in the last few meetings, we got a new website for the library. IT was heavily vested in that project. And right now we're live in Flagstaff, but the other libraries, the other county libraries are also getting new websites, and we're coordinating with them now to create the content for their website. And to give you an idea of what's going to happen there, you're all familiar with our website, I hope. This is the library's new website here. And you can see that there's a big, bulletin board is what we call it here at the front. That's our big announcement. But we have different navigation rows here at the top. Here's what the Forest Lakes Library will look like. As you can see, it's very similar. They're going to have access to all of the same resources that we have here. And so we took the template that we created for Flagstaff, and then we're using something very similar for the smaller libraries, which is something they could never do on their own. They simply don't have the staff to do all the stuff. But because we can build it here centrally in Flagstaff and then just duplicate our work out to the smaller libraries, they get the benefit of having us as a big brother, if you want to look at it that way. So this is part of the project we're in now, is fleshing out these websites for the smaller libraries, and that's what we're doing in IT. Our network, the one thing I just noticed, I passed over that. Our computer network is about 400 to 425 computers. Like I said, we're in a replacement cycle right now. We're reducing some numbers, so probably closer to 400 computers on our network that the 4 people on IT, including myself, support. So that's what the IT department does. That's who we are. And any questions for us? I know I went over a lot of information really fast there. So if you have any questions, go ahead and shout.
Yeah, I had a question. At the beginning, you talked about library cards. I was curious as to why isn't just one library card for all of the different branches?
That's a good question. And historically, we would like to get there someplace. That's the short answer, is we'd like to go there. But because our district is made up of both branch libraries and affiliate libraries, our monies are separate. And it comes back to that in the end. So if we have one library card that goes everywhere, and user A comes to, say, from Grand Canyon to Flagstaff and checks out a book and doesn't bring it back, who gets that money? Does it go back to the Grand Canyon Library, or does it come to the Flagstaff Library? Now, for Grand Canyon and Flagstaff, that's not a big deal because we're both under the same administrative umbrella of City of Flagstaff. But if that user is from Williams or Fredonia or Page, then it becomes a difference. How do we, and we've never figured out the mechanism for making the money work. And really, that's the only thing that's holding us back, is if we got everybody to agree that, yeah, we don't care about the money, we'll throw that all in the fund and buy ebooks with it. That's one possibility. It's out there, but then we could do it. But we just haven't been able to cross that political threshold to set up that arrangement so that we could have one card for everybody. On the other hand, the cards that people have now, they all do the same things, which makes it strange. the person at Grand Canyon has the same access to ebooks as the person in Flagstaff does. But technically, that person in Grand Canyon does not have access to our genealogy online resource. I forget what it is. Richard could tell us. Because we license that just for the Flagstaff library, not for the whole county. So the reason is it's money, and coming to financial concordance and making sure that we're all agree how the money is spent and where it goes and who pays it. But we try to make it as transparent as possible regardless, so that the cards do as much as possible. Another piece of that is that it's only been about 12 years. It was about 12 years ago when we all joined in together as one library catalog. Before that, each library had its own separate system, which was a nightmare to manage, I got to tell you, having 7 different systems to administer. And we combined them all into one catalog, which is now Koha. And the fact that each library had its own system, each library user had its own cards for that system. That's how it started. That's why they're all still separate. And that's the one piece of the puzzle that we haven't been able to bring forward and get everybody so one card runs everything. But ultimately, I think that should be our end goal. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, and does that fall through on the websites as well? Or is that just one login for the website? Because when you log in, because it says my account there on the one you're showing right now.
Right, and our system allows us to set up a subsystem, if you will, for each library. So they each get their own local branding. They can set up their own catalog, do their own things, customize it the way they want to, but it's all one big system that I could administer from here.
Yeah.
But then each library gets its own account and its own look and feel if they like. For example, if you notice, this is Forest Lakes. If you've got Flagstaff, we're blue. So when you go to, we're blue. But when you go to Forest Lakes, theirs is kind of a green color.
Yeah, but I was mainly talking about the end user, the community person. Like if I log in for Flagstaff, can I log into this Forest Lakes one as well?
Not unless you have a Forest Lakes library card.
All right.
But you can come, if you live in Forest Lakes and you want to borrow from the Flagstaff library, you can still do that.
From that.
Because the Flagstaff collection is a little more than half. We are half of what exists in the county as far as physical collection. And then the other small libraries make up the other half. It's about 45 to 55%, if you will. Ours is the biggest collection by far. But because we are the flagship for the Coconino County Library District, we will offer a library card to anyone who lives in Coconino County. Whereas someone in Williams or Grand Canyon, they're just issuing library cards to people who live in their communities. They typically don't issue them to everybody from throughout the county. They could if they wanted to. Nobody's going to stop them from doing that. But if they're coming to Flagstaff and they want to come here to borrow a book or use our services, they can still do that.
Are there interlibrary loans between like Forest Lakes Library and Flagstaff? I mean,
yes, there are.
There are.
Typically, Flagstaff is the lending library, and we always send our books out to the smaller libraries. Rarely does it go the other way, but it can, because sometimes they've got the book and we just don't, or ours is checked out or lost or whatever the case may be. But most of the time, we're loaning books to them. And we've talked about having an intra-library sharing, which is what goes back to what Beth said, so that one card will get you a book from any library. Currently, the holdup there is just distances. A lot of libraries do that, but a lot of libraries aren't as spread out as we are. When you have to, when it's 200 miles to get that book back to its home library, there's a cost associated with that. And we haven't crossed that bridge yet either.
So
and that's where the book deal comes in.
Are you saying like when you're on this Forest Lake site here, and you go to the catalog, that's only what they have at their place.
Correct. When I'm looking at the Forest Lakes, if I do a search here for dogs, these are the books about dogs at the Forest Lakes Library.
Okay, so it doesn't pick up anything from down here.
Correct. But if they want to get, but if they're in Forest Lakes, and well, I'm going to be in Flagstaff next week, let's see what they've got. Well, they can change. Let me see. There's a way they can go. Let me go back. Come on. Oops. I know why that's not working. Go back here. I don't want Flagstaff. I want Forest Lakes. They can go here and go back to either Flagstaff libraries, and just from their web page, they can get back to our library and search our catalog too.
Gotcha.
Or for that matter, any of the other libraries in the county.
Okay. And if they have a card for Flagstaff, but they live over there, let's say they have 2 cards, one for Forest Lake, one for Flag, and they do what you did, go to the Flag website, can they check the book out and have it just sent over there?
Not yet.
Not yet.
And again, because there's a cost associated with that, and it's just not in the budget yet. But it's something I think to look at. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, the only intra-collection, what we call floating collection, is between the Flagstaff Library and the East Flagstaff
Gotcha.
Library. We can run courier economically between those two, but not to any of the outlying areas. It's just too far of a distance right now. Mark and I in the past, have looked at, can we do a mailing system to try to get them, or leverage our bookmobile or some of our IT staff members who travel up there, but it just has not made financial sense.
But they can request it through ILL. And through the ILL budget, then we will ship it down to the Forest Lakes Library and then go there and pick it up. But that's, again, they have to know that process and go through it. And it takes, I don't know how long it takes by the time the book leaves here and arrives there.
Okay, any other questions for Mark?
I was thinking of mentioning, Mark, was that City of Flagstaff IT is looking at that Ninja software as well. So
Cool.
if you want to contact Dale Williams, he's the one that's in charge of that. So
Yeah, and that's one of the big time savers for us is if we can do things remotely, we do as much as we can, because if we can update computers in Fredonia without spending 8 hours on the road, that's a good thing. So we do that as much as we can. Sometimes, though, it's just beneficial to have your feet on the ground and be there in person to talk to them, and we'll learn things we would never know just by working online. Meeting them face to face, there's no substitute for it. But from an efficiency standpoint, doing things remotely really saves us a lot of time. All right. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I think we've got you coming back in just a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is the laptop distribution follow-up discussion, and that's Beth.
yeah, and Mark's still on, I guess. The main reason I brought it up is we were just looking for a partnership to get repurposed city laptops for the community, for schools, for whatever. And so that's why I brought it up in the library board meeting, asked for it to be on the agenda. And since then, I've talked to several different city departments, as well as I haven't really connected with community members, but I did get connected to a charter school in the city of Flagstaff, and they are interested. So, I think the figure was about 600 laptops total over 3 years is how many we recycle. And so the amount that are usable from that number, I don't know for sure, but I think it would at least be 100 for sure during the year, maybe 2. So, you know, I just brought it up to see if the library was interested, you know, and there's really no, you know, support that you're gonna have to do those laptops. It's basically just giving them away. Because, you know, they're gonna be wiped, they're going to be, have a Windows license, and so if you all are ever interested, let me know. But from the first meeting, it sounded like maybe it wasn't something the library wanted to partner in us, you know, with us, so.
I think our hesitation was not having Mark here to talk about it, and maybe not fully understanding that just giving them away, not part of library of things. Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark, I didn't interrupt you, but we're glad you're here so you can give us some feedback.
Yes, as you know, as Beth knows, as part of the city of Flagstaff, we're allowed to give these computers away to nonprofits, and that includes other government agencies. But what I'll say about the library part, you said specifically laptops, but that goes for any technology, really, any computers that we have. From the library's network, we don't have a lot of laptops. Of those 400 or so computers, only about 50 of them are laptops. But having said that, I am more than happy to just give them away to anybody that is in need that is within that range. However, the way we do that, Beth, of course, is like you said, when we buy the laptop new, we'll take a factory image of it. And when we're done with it, we just put that factory image back on it. So whoever gets it as though it was just brand new. And that's the way it is. We don't support it once it goes out the door. The problem with that is, by the time we're done with them, there's not much life left in our computers. The current replacement cycle, some of the laptops that we're replacing are still running Windows 7. And as you know, Windows 7 isn't even going to be viable for much longer. It won't even run the current browsers. You're stuck with old browsers now. And I'm not sure if we're doing anybody a favor by giving them something that old. Now, if they have other donators that can offer them newer software, that, you know, then the hardware is helpful. But the same thing goes for that, because now you have to have that new security chip if you want to run the newest version of Windows. And a lot of our computers don't have that. So sure, we can give them the laptops, but they're only going to be useful for really a matter of months before they no longer run even the most basic browser because of security concerns. Now, that security chip thing isn't always going to be the case, but for right now, that the ones we're getting rid of just are not going to be viable for very long. So I'm not sure if we're doing the organizations any favors by giving them computers that just aren't going to last very long. But we can leave that up to them. If they want them, I'm still more than happy to give it to them. In the past, we've given out computers to a Head Start school. That was our Pals Mobile driver that arranged that one, the one that just won the award. When she first started in her position as Pals Mobile driver, she was working with some Head Start schools, and yeah, they needed computers. They were not good computers. They were, as I described, they were very old and quite beat up, but they wanted them and they thought it was great. So we'll give anything to anybody that's worth it, but I'm just not sure we're doing them any favors.
Yeah, and Mark, you might have misunderstood. I wasn't asking about library laptops. I was mainly just talking about a partnership between us to have distributions, you know, like say we give you 100 laptops and then the library would distribute them, like a hard time with that word. And that's mainly the partnerships I was looking for.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, our laptops are, I think the replacement cycle is every 5 years. And the reason I got into this is because mine's 7 years. And they keep trying to get it away from me, and I'm like, you know, it's usable. It's a very good laptop still. And so that's why I had the thought of repurposing the laptops for the community. So, yeah. But thanks. Yeah, I understand what you're saying as far as the older they get. That's true. You know, they can't keep up with the current technology. That is true. So, yeah.
Were you thinking about distribution just here in Flagstaff or throughout the county?
It doesn't, either one, I hadn't even really thought about the rest of the county.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a good thought too.
Yeah, as far as distribution to the public, the problem we've have, and I think Richard mentioned this last week, is they tend to disappear. And we really, there are technologies that we can use to avoid that. But again, now you're getting into putting more money into this project than just giving things out for free that we're, have out there for the public. So it's not out of the question, but it's difficult to manage.
Okay.
For the sake of clarity, Beth, are you talking about like we have these and we just want to get rid of them? So you like just hand them out to community members to keep?
Yeah, another route for them rather than recycle. Okay. Right? Because you're not going to get the materials out of recycling. That somebody might in the community that doesn't have that kind of access.
I guess my only big concern about that would be that because the library gave it to them, people might have an expectation that the library will help them make it work.
Right.
Or bring it back.
You'll be the deep spot.
Yeah.
That's my
So-
hesitation too.
So that's the only hesitation for me. I mean, I love, not just recycling stuff that might still have some good use in it. But I feel like people might be bringing that in and wondering, well, why can't you make this work on it? You gave it to me and you know all about it, and which of course we wouldn't if it came from the city, but that's the only thing I worry about.
The other thing I worry about, because this has happened, is we give something for free, and then the expectation becomes, well, everything here is free. That has happened. You do need to check out a book. Just because we have some free books doesn't mean you can grab something off the shelf and walk out with it forever.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm not saying we can't do it. I wonder if maybe somebody in sustainability might be a better fit partner for that.
Yeah, or just having it distributed somewhere that doesn't have like a library model of bringing things back.
Yeah, exactly.
And they give it away here, it's.
Yeah.
And Beth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the policy for the city was that we were allowed to give it to organizations, not to individuals. Now, if the organization then turns around and gives it to an individual, that's fine. But we as the city can only give it to organizations or nonprofits. I thought we weren't allowed to give it to individuals.
That's not been brought up to me, but yeah, I'll make sure that I'm right there. I mean, the responses I got back are going to be like to an organization, like the charter school, and then from there, they would give it to individuals, yes. But as far as like if I partnered with the library, or we partner with library, then that would be like giving it to individuals. That's true, that's one thing I have not been told about, the people that I've talked to. But I have not talked to legal yet, so that's true. My supervisor did mention today that, this whole thing is probably gonna have to talk to legal to, clear guidelines of, here's the laptop, we're not going to be repairing it for you, those kind of things. So, yeah. Thank you for that.
All right. Anything further on that topic? Okay, and we're moving on to the 24-hour Wi-Fi follow-up. That's the first of our action items, and that is Linda and Mark.
So I can kick that off. At the last meeting, you might remember that we talked about the 24/7 Wi-Fi that we offer, and how there has been some concern from law enforcement about that possibly bringing people near the library in the wee hours of the night who are maybe doing things they shouldn't be doing. So as we concluded that discussion, we were really wanting to hear more from you, Mark, about the ability to shut it off, and I think you've done some research on that at a certain time, and also just about the use of that particular service that you see.
And I have something to add, actually, because I brought this up in one of our meeting of operations, because they were thinking of doing the same thing. And so we actually contacted the PD, and they didn't mention really the Wi-Fi. The main thing was the USB charging.
Interesting.
This was the main thing mentioned in the response back to us.
So they weren't as concerned with the Wi-Fi. Okay. All right, Mark. Well, so tell us what you discovered, because I did talk to you a little about this, so you knew it was coming.
Yes, and this is not the first time this conversation has come up. Having Wi-Fi available 24/7 became a big thing during COVID, when the buildings were closed and people had to access it outside. And the state library funded most of the libraries in the state to go ahead and, to go ahead and make the Wi-Fi accessible in the parking lots. So we took on a big project here during COVID to make that happen. So currently Wi-Fi is available outside of the library buildings in their parking lots at all the libraries that we oversee here in Coconino County. And the state gave us about $20,000 to do that with. So we did that. Part of the new technology that we have then that allows us to do this has a calendar and a clock within it. So we do have the ability to turn the Wi-Fi off at a certain time and turn it back on at a certain time every day. Of course, we have to monitor that calendar, account for holidays, all that kind of weird stuff. But it is doable. We have the technology. We can make it happen. However, a few years back, we had a monitoring software. It was called WhoFi. That was actually an online service called WhoFi. And they monitored when people were joining our network and who and how many. We eventually canceled that service because we never got it to work quite right the way we wanted it to. And it was about $3,500 a year, not outrageous, but it is for something that doesn't work. But one thing that it did do was give us a distribution, a table for any day we picked, and it would show you 24 hours a day and how many people were on the network, the Wi-Fi network, each of those hours. And as you can imagine, that was all clustered around midday. Mid-afternoon was our busiest time, and then the earlier went, there was fewer, and the later went. And there were always one or two oddballs that were out there at 2 in the morning. It wasn't like there were hordes of people. We're talking 1 or 2 people a night that were on, in the wee hours of the morning, and then maybe a few right after we closed and a few early in the morning. But we're not talking a lot of people. But there were people who used it while the library was closed. So what that tells us is that there was a need for it, not a huge need, but a need. And then the other thing I would throw out there is that there is no direct correlation between somebody using our Wi-Fi and saying that those are the same people that are behaving badly. I would act to say that, the people who are behaving badly probably aren't the ones who have their own devices and they're coming here to use Wi-Fi. They're just going to come here and cause problems anyway. I have no factual basis to say that. That's just my gut feeling behind that, because we've always had people that come to the library and, while we're closed and cause trouble. I mean, for example, back here by our air conditioning units in the back, we always have people sleeping in there. And you come in the morning and there's a shopping cart and sleeping bags and all kinds of stuff strewn all over the place. So just because there's people using Wi-Fi doesn't mean those are the people causing trouble. At least that's, again, I have no factual data to support that. That's just my gut feeling. But people are using our Wi-Fi when we're closed, but not a lot. Not a lot.
Any other thoughts from our members on that? I mean, I personally want to lean toward having it available for when people need it, unless we really start seeing some really specific evidence that it's creating issues.
And I was also going to add, Linda, that for here in the downtown library, our Wi-Fi covers our parking lot, and then Aspen Avenue, Sitgreaves, and Birch, all the way around. So just because they're using our Wi-Fi, they could be sitting in their car. They don't have to come up to the front door to do it. They can, anywhere within that realm, they can get on our Wi-Fi from.
How long ago did you say that UFI? When is that data from? How far back?
That was from probably 2021.
Yeah, in the early morning hours, I mean, the commuter train or the, not commuter, but the Amtrak, it comes in at 5 in the morning. So people that are waiting to leave on the train, they could be here at 4. And I don't know if the visitor center offers wireless or not.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure if they have a password or not.
right.
I mean, that's the other thing is our Wi-Fi does not have a password.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see the right. What Mark said, you know, how do you know it's those people causing the problems? I think it's just the congregation, I think, is what bothers PD, a lot of people in the area.
It seems the prudent thing to leave the current settings alone if there's not really, if there's not really specific incidents that we can point to that say that people were using the Wi-Fi for nefarious reasons, or if there was any damage related to people being there at off hours. I mean, I think maybe Mark, you pointed to it earlier when you said that if people were going to come do things, they'd come do them anyway. So. Any other thoughts from board members?
And just to be clear, they can't do nefarious things on the Wi-Fi. Library's internet by state and federal law is filtered. So it's pretty safe.
Okay. Okay, anything else there? Does someone want to make a motion about that? Because it is an action item about, I assume the motion would be whether to leave it as is or to adjust it.
I would move to leave it as is, unless or until some evidence is presented that it is actually part of the problem.
Do I have a second for Lisa's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And with that, let's go ahead and see, is there any further discussion before we do the vote? Okay, then let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of leaving the Wi-Fi settings as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We'll leave the settings as they are. And we will move on to our next action item, which is Linda's proposal to move the meetings to the 3rd or 4th Thursday of the month.
Okay, and I'll speak about why that is. Ideally, what I would like to be able to do is send out one packet to board members that has the agenda, the minutes, the statistics, the director's report, everything in one document. But right now, because of how soon in the month we're having the meetings, we're not able to do that, and we're certainly not able to do that a full week before. And so I would really like to see if it works for this group to move the meeting to the 4th Thursday for that reason. Because I know Alex, who puts together our statistics, was still kind of scrambling even a day or two ago. Come on, people, send us your statistics because we're waiting for some of these outlying areas, which of course they're one or two employees running the whole thing, so they don't get things done as quickly. And so I would just like the ability to put that packet together, to get it to you a full week in advance, so that you can have plenty of time to look at anything that's gonna be part of the meeting. So that's my thinking behind that. And I was kind of thinking that a month or two back, but I wanted to sort of see how things run before making any kind of recommendation like that. And I don't know how that works for people's schedules either, but that's the reason behind it.
Okay, thanks. And when would you propose we start this with the November meeting?
Maybe for the first of the year.
Okay, that will work.
For November, that would be Thanksgiving a lot of the time, so.
Yeah, it would, and I've had a board, I've had two boards that did the fourth Thursday, and for the month of November, they just moved it to the week before Thanksgiving, to the.
Okay. Can everybody check their calendars? Does anybody see any real glaring conflicts with that? I don't.
I'm good.
Okay, so so your proposal is the fourth Thursday of the month, and so if I will entertain a motion to adjust the schedule to the fourth Thursday of each month for our board meetings,
Starting in January.
starting in January.
I'll make a motion to move the meetings to the fourth Thursday of the month at 1, starting January.
And I'll second.
Okay, so we have that. That will be an official change. We'll have Starla adjust the schedule to make sure that it's on their calendars. And if we could remove all of the other meetings besides those, because I know for a while we were doubled up on some calendars, to make sure that people are at the right meeting, that would be great. All right. So that's our second action item, and now we have a foundation update from Corey.
So, she sent me the information. Let me just bring it up really quick, because she wasn't able to attend, so. Corey's not in attendance.
That's Corey Ringenberg from the county.
Oh, I thought we should get married here.
Two Corys, two
Yeah.
Corys at the meetings. Sometimes.
I just messaged myself, but this is what she wrote. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. Okay, so right here, this is what Corey sent me. I just copy and paste it, but this is her update here. Okay, is everyone okay?
Yeah, it looks good. When it says the next meeting is yet to come, correct?
Correct, yeah, that should be next Thursday, I believe.
Okay, good enough. All right, and with that, that brings us to the last couple of things, and that is the agenda for future meetings. And the next meeting, it looks like we've got Grand Canyon on the docket with Dan and Alex. And then our next board meeting will be November 9th. And if there's no other conversation for the good of the order, yes, Lisa.
I just have a question that's related to something from previously when the gentleman came and talked about the library at the airport. I just wondered if anybody can donate books to that airport library or if the books come from this library or something. Where do they get the books from? Can just anybody donate one?
So I think that's probably a question for the airport at this point.
Okay.
We donated a sizable amount of our discards a couple of years ago, and my understanding has been that it's kind of similar to one of your little libraries that are scattered throughout town, where it's, take a book, leave a book.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, it's an airport, so it's usually more taking than leaving. So I would assume that they would take what they can get.
Okay, just curious.
I'm not sure.
Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, anything else for general information? Okay, so I will take a motion to adjourn, and we'll see everybody on November 9th.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, I've got it. Okay, thank you. We got it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
How is the out front area doing? Remember last time we talked about